Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today I want to share with you my top 5 reads of the first quarter of 2022. Alright, so this is a video that I put out quarterly and share with you my top 5 of the previous 3 months. And so these are going to be my top 5 reads of January, February, and March of 2022. And yeah, let's just kind of get into this. I have 3 middle grade books, 2 adult books to share with you today. And yeah, I think that fairly represents my reading over the last 3 months. During middle grade March, which is a month-long readathon in March, I read only middle grade, and so that kind of explains why there are 3 middle grade and 2 adult. But yeah, let's just go. So I'm going to share with you my middle grade reads first, and then I will share with you my top 2 adult reads. But the first book that I want to share with you today is The Parker Inheritance by Varian Johnson. This was a book that I picked up during middle grade March that I adored. This book follows Candace, who is living in this small town in South Carolina for the summer with her mom. It is her grandma's house that she is living in. Her grandma has previously passed away, and her mom and her are living in the house to kind of try to clean it up a little bit while their house is having some renovations done in Atlanta. And while she's there, she comes across this letter that her grandma had set aside for her that was kind of this mystery letter. It basically says, hey, you know, I have this huge inheritance, and whoever finds it gets 10%, and the rest of it goes to the city, but you have to be able to follow all these clues and find it in order to get it. And so this book is told, it's a very unique book. It pulls heavily from the Westing game, so kind of that inheritance game sort of thing that the Westing game is known for. The Westing game is referenced many times in this book, but this is also a historical mystery in that they are trying to solve this mystery that points back to this specific town's past. Specifically like the 1950s, early 1960s, that sort of era, and specifically with the race relations in this town at the time. And so these 2 kids kind of decide that the girl that finds the letter and her neighbor friend decide that they are going to take this letter and try to solve the mystery and find this inheritance. And they learn all about this town's history and some of the prominent people in it. Throughout the book, you are also getting flashback points of view from the people that they are learning about. So they will learn about a specific person in the town's history, and then you'll get that person's like point of view from the historical perspective. And so I just thought that it was so well done. I really appreciated the depth that this book brought. It was just very deep. It didn't read like a middle grade book. It was very nuanced. It was very thought-provoking, and I really, really enjoyed it. So that is The Parker Inheritance by Varian Johnson, and I highly suggest you pick it up. All right, the next book that I have on this list is The Last Cuentista by Donna Barba Higuera. This is the Newbery, sorry, my mind just went blank there for a minute, but the Newbery winner for this year. And as soon as I saw that it had won the Newbery, I immediately went and got the audiobook and listened to the entire thing in pretty much like a day. I loved this book. This book follows, I believe her name's Petra Pena. I said that really weird, sorry. Petra Pena, and she is of Mexican descent, and her family, this is a sci-fi book, so her and her family are preparing to go on this spaceship because there is a comet coming towards Earth and it's going to destroy Earth. And so a select few members of society have been selected to go on this spaceship that's being shot out into space, and they are like humanity's last hope sort of situation. Her parents are horticulturalists and so are botanists, not horticulturalists, botanists. And so her family is selected to go. And so she, you kind of, when the book starts, they are preparing to like get on board this ship, and she's getting on board, and she really, really wants to be a storyteller. That is where she really connects with people in life, is through storytelling, and she doesn't want to leave that part of her behind, and so she really, really is clinging onto these stories from her grandma as she is preparing to leave. And then when she wakes up on the other side of this, years long voyage, she comes to realize that this group known as the Collective has kind of taken over everything, and they want to wipe everybody's memories of Earth and kind of the history of humanity, and wipe everybody's minds and just kind of start afresh. And so this book really explores the importance of storytelling and the importance of history and why we learn history. I think that this is a very important topic, a very relevant topic to today, in that we need to learn from our mistakes, and we need to teach history and show our kids that, yeah, humanity made some really, really bad mistakes, and we can learn from those mistakes. And so this is told in, like I said, this sci-fi setting, but with a really powerful, timely story. The sci-fi isn't too heavy in this, so I think that even if you are not one to really pick up sci-fi, you would still really like this. And so, yeah, this was a absolutely beautiful, beautiful book with a beautiful cover, if I might add, and highly, highly deserving of the Newbery Medal. So that was my second book. The last middle grade book that I want to share with you today is another one that I read during middle grade March that I fell in love with and absolutely adore, and that is When the World Was Ours by Liz Kessler. This is a book told from three different points of view. It starts when these three friends, during one of their 9th birthdays in Vienna, Austria in 1936. So one of them is turning 9 years old. It's this group of three friends. Two of the three are Jewish, and one of them is Austrian, and his father is definitely coming under the influence of the SS, and kind of what that all means. And so throughout this book, you follow them in a progression throughout the entire World War II, of the entirety of World War II. I'm trying to remember how old the kids were when the book finally ends. They're in their teenagers by the time it ends. This book was so powerful, but it really explores each of their different paths throughout the war, where they end up, what happens, how their parents influence their lives. It is heartbreaking. There is no violence, like, I shouldn't say that. There is violence on the page. There is, I don't know, a lot of it is off the page, though, I should say that. But I would definitely pre-read this one before just handing it to a kid. This is definitely the upper end of middle grade, low end of YA, I would say, would be the age range for this. But it was just so good. Following these three different kids throughout three different paths through the war, and how they cling to their friendship throughout the war, and how they're constantly reflecting back on their childhood friendship. And so, yeah, if you have not picked up yet When the World Was Ours by Liz Kessler, once again, another beautiful cover too. But I loved this book so much. All right, next, let's move on to some adult books. So the first one I want to share with you is an adult contemporary romance that is from a debut author, and that is Rachel Ryan's Resolutions by Laura Starkey. This is one that I just like randomly got a NetGalley of. I was perusing NetGalley and I was like, that looks interesting. And then I picked it up and read it, and I loved this book so much. It was a little hard to find, like a hard copy. I knew I wanted a hard copy for my shelves, and it was a little hard to find, but it is so good. This follows Rachel, who is in her 30s and just kind of not happy with where she is in life. So she makes all these New Year's resolutions, and you follow the progression of those resolutions throughout, I would say, the first half of the year, whichever year it is. I think it's like 2019. Sorry, I had to think about it. 2019 is when it's set. And so she had a really, really nasty breakup with a college boyfriend many moons ago. It's always kind of like haunted her. And then she works in this marketing firm. She's fairly good at her job, and she shows up there after the new year and finds out that her company is merging with another company, and she is, surprise, going to be working with this ex of hers that she has this really not great remembrance of. And so that is a huge aspect of this book. Another aspect of this book is her friendship. She lives with her best friend, and her best friend's boyfriend and his best friend, like the four of them are like a really core friend group. And so this really explores the importance of friendship and depending on friendship, and how that looks when you're in your 30s, or late 20s, early 30s. I think she's actually in her late 20s in this. I know I said 30s. But anyway, it was so good. This is probably the most realistic romance book I have ever read in my life. There were conversations that happened in this book and thought progressions that happened in this book that I have had. And so as I was reading them, I felt very validated and very seen. And I adored it. So anyway, highly recommend picking this one up. I know it's kind of an underlier. Not many people have heard of it, and I've never heard anyone else talk about it, but that one definitely had to go on the list. And then the last one that I want to mention was my first 5-star read of the year, and is definitely one of my favorite books of all time, and that is Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan. This is another World War II historical fiction book. This follows Pino Lela, who lives in Milan, Italy, and when the Nazis kind of start coming in, his parents sent him to a monastery up in the mountains to go to school. And through that act, he starts assisting Jews in escaping Italy over the Alps. He's very knowledgeable in skiing and mountain climbing, and he's able to do this. So this follows him as he does that. And then when he turns 17, his parents make him enlist in the SS military, or in the Nazi military, because they don't want him to be drafted. And so they make him enroll in the military so that he won't be drafted. And through a series of events, he ends up becoming the driver for one of the commandants in Milan during that time, and starts spying on him for the Allies. And so this just kind of follows his story. It was heartbreaking. It was super impactful. I adored this. I adored the writing. It is based off of a true story. There is some controversy about that, but Mark Sullivan did take some liberties with things, and so it is classified as historical fiction. So as a historical fiction book, like, this was perfect. Like, for me, I was eating it up. I was in it, and there were definitely many times where my jaw just hit the floor and I could not believe what I was reading, and it was just done so well. I absolutely loved it. And so yeah, if you're looking for a good World War II historical fiction that's a little different, like I said, it does take place in Italy. It talks about Mussolini and different things like that. And so yeah, this one was a winner for me as well. So those are the 5 books that I wanted to share with you today, my top 5 reads of the first quarter of 2022. So whoa, there they are for you again. And yeah, if you've read any of these, I would love to hear your opinions about them down below in the comment section. And if you are now inspired to pick one of these up, let me know that as well. And yeah, that's gonna do it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.